Sure.
Yeah,
Good evening. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 7 o'clock and let's be quick to read the statement of compliance for the Open Public Meetings Act into the record, please.
this meeting is being held in compliance with the Open Public Meetings Act with the annual notice published in the Trenton Times and sent to the Hunterdon County Democrat. The meeting notice was provided to members on the listserv, department heads on Monday, January 29th. The meeting agenda contains known actionable items at the time of publication and is subject to change. This meeting is being recorded and recorded using the Zoom meeting platform. Roll call,
Please.
Councilwoman Kaminsky.
Here.
Councilman Lyde.
Here.
Councilman Stegman.
Here.
Council President Lambert. Here. Mayor No.
Here. Please rise to the pledge of allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. In honor of those serving our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, and with each other. Thank you. All right, we'll begin the meeting with our first public participation session. As always, members of the public are welcome and encouraged to speak at these meetings. If you would, if you have a mobility issue, kind of step to the podium, state your name and address. You'll have 3 minutes of uninterrupted time to make your comment or ask your questions, and the council may or may not respond. Anybody who'd like to offer any public comment at the moment? Is there anybody online that would like to offer public comment?
No, actually, we have 5 attendees. And there are no hands up.
Can I have a motion to close the public comment period, please?
Move the vote.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Well, we have a light agenda this evening, so we should be able to get through it fairly quickly. We have just a couple of resolutions. The first resolution is number 31-2024. This is a resolution in support of the grant application to the County of Hunterdon Open Space Preservation for Holcomb Park, 260 North Main Street in Lambertville. Just gonna talk about this because it makes sense to talk a little bit why this is coming up at the moment. We are at the tail end of our Green Acres application process. We recently just received the what's called an AAV, which is the average of the 2 appraisals that were required as part of the Green Acres process. So that number came in at $418,000. Once we have that number, we are then allowed to apply to the county open space program. So Jackie Middleton has graciously agreed to file the application on behalf of the city. Jackie is the director of land acquisition for the Hunterdon Land Trust, and so she's going to be filing that application with the county. The application is due fairly soon, and then it's a commissioner or committee that makes the recommendation to the commissioners will meet in March and make their recommendation thereafter. So if everything goes well, it should be a fairly quick turnaround time with this. And this is just simply a resolution to support that application at the county level. So we would receive half of the appraised value as stated through the Green Acres process. So roughly, just when we talked about the total preservation funds available to the city through both these programs, we're looking at probably about $418,000, probably a little bit higher because the Green Acres will include soft costs for engineering and other soft costs. So we should have more news on that fairly soon, but are there any questions from the council about this resolution?
Mayor, can you remind us, if we do get awarded this money, does that go to pay down the grant or the bond?
Yes, we will pay down. That's the intent of, I think that's my intent.
So the first Green Acre funding that we went after, and that would total what if we got that?
Well, so it's 50%, up to 50% of the AAV. So the AAV came in at $418,000. So that means the maximum we would get from Green Acres for preservation is $209,000.
So it's exact.
It's exactly the same, the county match.
15%, right?
So each entity would give the same amount.
Correct,
Okay,
yeah, and maybe a little higher just because of soft costs that are,
okay.
that can be included.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, we're talking roughly about $418,000 for both the Green Acres funding, it's not a grant, it's funding, and the county's open space grant.
Okay.
So as you remember, the Green Acres is really a deed restriction, it's not a grant per se.
Thank you.
And because we would be using that to pay down the bond, I guess there's really no direct effect of this on our budget for this year, right? That we, or,
Well, it's a slightly complicated question only because we're looking at long-term financing for our bond anticipation notes, of which the cost of purchase is one. So I'm not gonna be able to give you specifics about that, so it's still a little complicated talking about that in the next month or so.
thank you.
Sure.
Okay.
If there are no other questions, I would ask for a motion to adopt.
I'm sorry, so you said that the Hunterdon County Open Space Trust, 209,000 would be paid, used to pay down the debt.
We can all agree to that right now,
Oh.
I would think. I don't know whether.
Why, I'm sorry, I misunderstood.
Yeah, no, I don't know whether it has to be. I'm not sure that's a legal question. I wasn't prepared to answer that tonight, but we can make a commitment that it does pay down debt.
And I didn't ask that question before, so I apologize, but it was just something I was thinking of. You know, and so I guess, do we have some flexibility with that bill in terms of?
We would have to see if we're approved for the grant, there'll be a grant agreement and that'll contain the terms of how the funds can be used, so I'd have to see that first. And I think we have to go through this application process before we get to that point.
Right, so I mean, I would just say, I would support paying down the debt if we're allowed to do so.
I would too. So, that's noted for the record, and we'll follow up as soon as the application has been processed and we have a better sense of whether that grant will be awarded. Any other questions? Hearing none, I would ask for a motion to adopt resolution number 31-2024. So move.
Second.
All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. The next resolution 32-2024, resolution to correct resolution number 174-2024, transfer resolution. It's just kind of a housekeeping error that the auditor picked up, and it's a fairly straightforward matter. I don't know if you have anything else to say about it.
It's really just, it was a clerical error. It's to correct it. We need to do this so we can file the ADS.
I have a dumb question.
Mhm.
Resolution 174-2024.
Did I put 24? It should be 23.
Okay.
Yeah.
Seemed like an all way high, yeah.
Okay, let's note that.
Too many 23s and 24s.
Where I feel like I've been asleep for like 150 of them. If it was 174, okay.
Any other questions or comments on that? No, we have a motion to adopt resolution 32-2024.
So move.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great, motion carries. A couple of announcements here. Convenience center hours Saturdays in February 3rd and February 17th. From 9 to noon, Wednesday, February 21st, from 3 to 5. I have a few updates to offer to the council and the public tonight. I first wanted to give a big shout out to Marianne Borsch, the chair of the Parks and Rec Commission. She sought a grant from the Lower Delaware Wild and Scenic River Management Council and was awarded $5,000 to plant trees in the riparian buffer at Cavallo Park. People may or may not know, we ended up having to take I think it was a total of 6 trees out of Cavallo Park this year because of the emerald ash borer and dead trees. So Marianne got right on this and filed a grant application and got $5,000 to plant new trees down there. So that's a really lovely accomplishment, and I want to make sure that I thank Marianne publicly for that. Couple of other things, just some projects that I wanted to let everybody know that I'm working on at the moment. So our road projects from last year, the Studford Street project from Douglas to Swan, and then Swan down the hill is out to bid at the moment. The bid opening for that will be February 14th. As soon as we have that bid opening and we're able to award the contract, we'll be looking forward with that project. Some please that we're making some progress there. I would also note, well, I'm gonna talk in a minute about a bond ordinance and more about road projects, but a couple of little engineering projects I just wanted to let people know about. So I'm meeting with the city engineer tomorrow. He and I are going to review a number of inlet repairs, as storm drains and catch basins around the city. It's about a dozen of them that need substantial repair. And you know, with the DPW schedule, there's something that we get to them. And I think we're back at 2017. We bonded for catch basin repairs and did, I think, 27 or 30 like this.
Yeah, it was actually like 2021.
2021. Okay, so
Before Ida hit.
okay, thank you for that. So we'll be out looking at those tomorrow. I'm also gonna look at a couple of other things. We are going to look at the situation at the culvert at the base of Stutterford Street. You know, that's had suffered some serious erosion, and we're gonna take a look at that. And there's a section of wall on Upper York Street that was badly compromised even before Ida. And we're gonna take a look at that as well. There is money in the Ida repair bonds to do these projects. So I'll just kind of keep everybody up to date on the scope of them. These are not, with the exception possibly of the Stutterford Street culvert project, these are not large projects. But I'll certainly report back to the council on them.
Is the Stutterford Street one at the bottom of,
Yeah.
in that, who's the house that, we looked at that together.
Yeah, Mr. Huggins owns the property
right.
and
Gotcha.
yes, so we're gonna go take a look at that again tomorrow. Two other things that we're looking at, I was out with the Princeton Hydro, who is our stormwater engineer. We're looking at the area behind the school, Ely Creek, which has not really been cleaned since possibly Irene. So we're looking at that as a project. I'm not sure how that can be funded. They're trying to determine whether we need permits from the state, given the calculation about acreage and drainage that they're working on. So I'll have more information on that as well.
So that may be a state funded project?
No, it may just require state permits,
Oh, thank you.
which will make it a slower project. One other thing that we're.
Yeah, go ahead. No, I just kind of realized, I thought it was a period, so I didn't realize it was a comma, you had another project, but I was just wondering if, in our budget deliberations, that, that if any of these project costs get, put into it, or if we were going to like spearhead a regular, stormwater basin and great, clean out, like regular maintenance, and if that, we're gonna maybe, have more money, how, pay for it through, with DPW, that, could be part of our budget discussions as well to, start that program, because like we were talking about when we, I remember when we also toured the buildings about getting into some regular maintenance on the buildings and, gutter clean out stuff, so.
Right.
it's just-
Yeah, no, we can certainly talk about that, and I will also say that, we were awarded the $25,000 grant from the DEP for our reassignment to the Tier A permit, and I believe we have now satisfied all of the fairly onerous requirements to receive another $50,000 as a grant from the DEP, and that money can be used for staffing, labeling of storm inlets, repairs, all this kind of stuff. So there is some more money coming in from grants that we will be able to use. And I don't have an understanding yet about what costs are involved or the process is involved. Obviously, the school is concerned about the creek back there. We don't want to spend millions of dollars on the school and then have issues with that. So Princeton Hydro is looking at it, and I expect that they will be able to get back to me fairly soon with a proposal. And I'm happy to bring all of these projects, continually for council if there's interest, in talking at this. This was a fairly granular level to some degree, I think. But I'm happy to do it.
Can you explain what you mean that the $50,000 can be used for staffing?
It can be used for, so we have a stormwater management coordinator. So for example, part of the money this year, I will seek to add to salaries for people whose jobs have increased exponentially because of the requirements. So Lester and an assistant stormwater manager And some for Cindy for the administrative work associated with that. So, we'll take a look at that, but there's, with the grant money, we have complete flexibility to use it. As long as it's, going toward meeting our requirements with the tier A, program.
So that's something that will come before us to approve,
No,
the staffing part.
not, well, I mean, it'll come up as a, I don't know, if it needs to come up as a memo, or I'm not sure how.
Would that be in the budget, I guess?
It wouldn't be in the budget, because it's a separate grant, so it would be, it would come out of the grant and then be allocated into personnel costs.
I'd like to have a discussion with you about, with the council about that, whether it's gonna go to staffing or not.
Okay.
I don't think-
We certainly have a I mean, I heard that.
That's the first I heard of it, so I just would like to know a little bit more detail about it. Are they gonna work later to do the extra job? Are they working through their regular 9 to 5? 9 to 5, I know they put in much more work on that. So I'm just curious to see how,
Certainly talk about it.
yeah,
Yeah, I'm not prepared to talk about it tonight.
no, me neither, I just asked.
The grant fund, I mean, I will have a point of view about it,
Yeah.
about personnel costs that are risen, or the responsibilities have grown a lot under the tier A requirements for staffing. So, I'm generally of the mind that a commensurate, increase in salary to deal with these responsibilities is okay. So that's all I would say tonight. We can talk about that.
And it's just a one-time grant, right?
Well, right, and I guess the other question is, of course, it's gonna cost more, but are we talking about additional headcount or not? That would be a question I would have, just to put it out there.
Not this year. Not this year.
It sounds so some of that money might use, so we don't need to hire more people because the existing people we have, we're adding new responsibilities to.
Correct.
But do they have the bandwidth? That's kind of you can only go back to the well so many times, right? And you can't have 9 ladies have the baby in 1 month. That's kind of what I'm driving at.
Right. Right, well, we'll talk about it. But, everyone gets that level of detail.
No.
Again, I wasn't prepared for it, but we do have the grant money, and as long as it goes to, to the needs of the tier A program, we can use it how we see fit. So that is, a little bit about kind of some of the engineering projects sort of looking at right now. And two other notes here. So there's a little project I'd like to undertake at City Hall. Just want to get council feedback. Talking to Marianne Borge, the area behind the fence on the west side of the property, which is fairly narrow. We're looking to do some landscaping there, putting in native plants. Be something that I would pay for myself. I think it'd be kind of a nice little project to put in native flowers, cone flowers, all kinds of things. So the council doesn't have any issue with that. I would go ahead and do a little plan and then,
Yeah, I'm concerned that we're not doing anything to the lot itself, and then time it rains, it floods, it puddles, freezes, it gets scraped off, and. We have probably the worst parking lot in the city, which is behind City Hall, so maybe we can work some kind of. Dual plan where we can make that a little bit more. Safer to walk through and aesthetically pleasing.
yeah, well, that's a separate project.
Yes.
I'm just trying to kick in and make a little native garden, there.
No,
Yeah, admittedly, the City Hall parking lot, listen, if I had my druthers, I would love to make it a permeable parking lot, right? Dig the whole thing up and do it properly, but as you'll find in a minute, that's a very expensive proposition, because I have something else that I want to highlight here. So, are there any objections to Marion and I sort of doing a little design, and I'll pay for it and we'll do the planting?
you'll pay for
I
it?
will,
Personally pay
Yeah.
for it?
yeah. So,
So make sure you have all that stuff that you're paying.
It's only nice.
yeah, I want bigger things. I was like, we're not planting we're not doing seedlings here. We gotta bring it in and make it look nice the first year. All right, moving on. It's my intention in the second meeting of this month to introduce a bond ordinance, and I just wanted to talk about that a little bit. What I know about it and what I don't know yet. So bond ordinance, and I think that we'll probably do more than one this year. The bond ordinance, I hope to, if I can get all that, if I can get it all planned and worked out, and ready to introduce on the 15th. It would include, the money that we need to fund for the federal earmark project, $450,000. That we will be reimbursed for from the federal government, for the project on Music Mountain behind the firehouse. So,
Okay, 450,000 for Music Mountain, that's going to come out of federal fund, but we have to pay for it first,
correct,
and then they pay us back
correct,
whenever.
not whenever,
I know.
I'm sure there's a timetable.
I was being sarcastic.
Okay, so.
Someone gets the key to Fort Knox.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's handled through the USDA, so
Mm-hmm.
that program, so I don't have a timeline yet, we're still waiting on the agreement from the USDA, but it's approved. And I'd like to go ahead and get that money going so that when Princeton Hydro completes the design, that we can really dig in, because just the last storm we had, all of the riprap that we replaced up in at Ida just all washed out and covered the inlet there. So this is, I consider this a pressing problem, and I'd like to get moving forward. And so that would be included in a bond ordinance. The next thing that would be included in a bond ordinance would be the cost associated with repaving South Franklin Street from Highland down to Swan Street. And also that block of Church Street that we keep talking about between North Franklin and North Main.
The one way, right?
The one way,
Right.
yeah. So this project, we just received notification from the Department of Transportation. We received a grant in the amount of $131,598 toward that project. So the engineers are providing me with an estimate by Monday on what the total cost of the project will be. And then we will need to bond for that amount to that total.
By the dry cleaner.
Correct. That will also include potentially some small soft costs for engineering for the Church Street plan. Also included in this bond ordinance will be the replacement of the storm sewer pipe from the Delavan Street that runs between North Union and Clinton Street. That estimate I expect to have again on Monday. $4,300 of that project has been already paid through escrow account by the developer of 7 Delavan. They nicked the pipe, but it was when we then did a diagnostic video of the pipe that we determined that there was substantial damage in other places of the pipe. Pipe has to be replaced, and I want to do it as early as possible because of the draining into the earth at Clinton Street, and also to allow the developer to repave the street and close out the get a certificate of occupancy, because that will not be issued until we finish this particular project and they repave the street. So I don't have the estimate for this just yet. It's probably going to be, in the neighborhood of $25,000-$30,000, but that would be included as part of this bond ordinance. Other things that I'd like to talk about with the council. There's actually one other thing that I would like to include in this particular bond ordinance. The city has partnered with the school district in regards to the parking lot of the school. They are undertaking the job to remove all of the parking lot at the school to replace it with permeable paving. That's the estimate for this is several $100,000. They're absorbing all the costs for this project. We have to file the paperwork with the Delaware American Canal Commission. If anybody feel like they want to know that particular reason, I'm happy to share it, but we're going to file the application, so we will pay for the application costs. And I said that we would commit to $15,000 toward the project costs, which is a very small amount, given that we're getting a parking lot that's going to, be resilient in terms of its design and engineering and stormwater, and it's not going to cost us $250,000 or whatever the total sum is. So I'd like to include that amount in bond ordinance as well, at $15,000 plus whatever small costs there are for engineering and the application.
Well, in that case, maybe we can just get gravel, put it behind City Hall and smooth it out, if that's kind of price you're getting for that.
Yeah,
So it's a little price.
yes, it is. It's very expensive.
So there's a workaround maybe for a while.
And then not in this, it feels like enough for a bond ordinance, for at least the first one. Two other things that I want to consider this year, and I'm just introducing this as tonight to the council. I just got the estimates in for this. So, it's not that I didn't have, just that I just got the numbers. So we will look at doing the Studder Avenue culvert repair. We will look at the Healy Creek. And I did ask Michael Burns, the city architect, to provide an estimate to repoint and repaint the library and deal with the lead issue. That number came in at $320,000. So that's something that I personally would like to see happen this year. I think it's past due.
Yeah.
And, last year we applied to the state and didn't have any luck with that. We will continue to seek funds. There's a lot of work that needs to be done at the library beyond that. And I think that this is a job that will add immediate impact to the community and for the library. So we can talk about this as a council. I know this is brand new to everybody, that number. So, something to think about.
Excuse me, that would be a separate effort from this upcoming bond ordinance, or is it, are you proposing it be in that?
Well, we haven't talked about it, so I think
Okay.
we could do one bond ordinance. I wanted to get it out here. If the council all individually is ready to say yes or no or whatever, I'm happy to add it, but I'm also happy to say if we need to have further conversation about it among the council, we can talk about it next month and do a second bond ordinance, a little later in the year. I'm of the mind that, that's a large number and it seems like it'd be virtually impossible to get that in a grant form.
I'm sorry, it was
320,000. So that would be for the remediation of the lead issue,
Oh, that's just.
all the repointing,
No repointing.
and painting of the building. Yeah, so, we can talk about that. We don't have to talk about it now, just I wanted to get it out there. So those are really kind of my priorities. There are a couple of other things that I'm sure that I'm overlooking in terms of capital projects that were discussed during the budget process, but I just want to get some of this stuff out there, for you and for the public. Are there any questions about any of that? Good. So that's all I have. At this point, I would welcome the public to the opportunity again to participate. Same rules apply. Step to the podium, name and address, 3 minutes, uninterrupted time.
Paul Stevens, 30.
You're not on.
Yeah. it's not-
It's not you. It's not you.
It's not you, yeah.
You have to project.
Okay, now you can start.
It's.
This last discussion has confused me. I'd like to understand eventually if these bond ordinances are coming up, as commented on before, is, look, we had this study about this city infrastructure. There were ranked things in terms of priorities and everything, but now I'm hearing, oh, well, it'd be nice to do this now. We want to do this now. I'd like to hear how these fit in, or do we even still believe that study? Is that study out of date for some reason? Did we spend a lot of money that we didn't need to? I'd like to see a strategy as opposed to this tactical approach of, well, this sounds about right. We're going to do this now. Because we've got a lot of issues on the table in the out years in this town. If you look at the infrastructure, if you look at the stuff with the creeks and everything, we have a lot. And just going after this or that is not a way to do it and get the people to buy into it. If we could see a plan. I've asked for this before and I'm going to ask for it again. Thank you.
Judy Gleason, 86 North Union Street. I sort of had two things I wanted to bring up and they both come up, but I'm gonna say them anyway because I want it for emphasis and just for seeking clarity. I had planned to come and ask for the schedule of maintenance that we have in place for storm drains and storm water in town. Storm drains is the term I will use because I don't know what other terms, but I wanted to know where the schedule is to be performing maintenance on all that because we've been doing things since Ida and probably before, I don't know. But I don't know that where the schedule is, and I'd sort of like to know what we're doing for maintenance because we have a budget as a city, so costs like that would normally have to be in it like they are in each of our home budgets when we're figuring out what we're doing. So that was the first thing I wanted to say. Councilwoman Kaminsky mentioned a similar issue, but I wanted to say I came prepared to say, could we have the schedule of maintenance so we know what we're doing? And Paul just made a similar point to what I was gonna be asking about, which had to do with where is the schedule of maintenance for the buildings in town? Because again, we're going in, we're already doing budgeting and that gotta be somewhere because it's part of what we have to do, and it's of concern with the kind of tax increases we see and have and worry about. These are sort of key. So those are the two things that I wanted to say. I would like to know where those schedules are so I can see what's going on when the budget is out and we see what's going, what you're doing. A comment, a point that was made tonight, 2 points made tonight. One, the Delavan issue with Delavan and Clinton. Didn't get from how you said it, whether the developer's paying for all that or the city's paying for any of it. I hope the developer's paying for all of it because I've seen the developers work and I live right near there, so I know what a mess that is. That was not clear entirely. And the last thing, the library lead issue, I have gone through minutes of this council over several years in the past. We have minutes that say there is a lead problem, and then we have minutes that say we don't have a lead problem. Don't worry about the lead. No, we do have lead. What? I don't know if we have to do lead or not. I don't know where that is on the list of city building things. And I, Judy Gleason, don't need to know, but we need to know because the budget comes up, you all need to know. And when the decisions are made and the city needs to know what you're doing with fiscal responsibility, that kind of stuff is really important. So it would be really helpful if that stuff could be identified. Thank you.
Dave Barrett, 255 Brunswick Avenue in Lambertville. I think there was enough things said about other things, and I want to speak to the utility agreement. That's the study that's underway. From earlier comments from the administration about a planned November 24th referendum on the stormwater utility and a now meeting focus group. It is time to say, we don't need another layer of government, made up government. We don't need another tax. We need the elected mayor and council to work together as a team because there's a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge sitting at the table. All right, and there's people in the community that can help also to get the work done and start it now. I appreciate that you're looking for some things to do this year, and that's great. I think that needs to be escalated to get things done. All right, and I know it takes time, but you folks all need to be on the same page, listening to the residents and get it done. We don't need another clipboard in the process. We need more shovels. And to pass it off the responsibility that you folks have ran for and have been elected by the residents, all right, it's not the way to do it. This is something that has been done for years, decades, all right, by mayor and council. And I think that's where the focus needs to be. Focus on getting the projects done now. Thank you.
Good night.
There was a hand up. Stephen, did you still want to comment?
No, I'll address my issue separately.
Okay, thank you.
May I have a motion to close public comment, please?
Second.
So in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Just a couple thoughts here, in terms of planning work. I certainly have kept the musical report, it's on my desktop, I look at it regularly. The work that, I'm proposing isn't part of it's not part of a formalized schedule that's been released to the public. But certainly when we look at the different, tasks that were identified as part of the musical report. My work in trying to plan for not only maintenance, but deferred, how we deal with deferred problems in the city to our buildings. I'm very keenly aware of everything, right? So the library, in the musical report is listed as a priority one, painting and the repointing, right? So this is a project that's a huge project, and it's been identified in the musical report. It's been talked about repeatedly over the years. Among the city council, and other city councils. So, we are, I am as the mayor, and I think we are as the council, working toward rectifying and planning for the future. Just because it's not on an outline doesn't mean it's not happening. I would also point to the DPW garage work. I mean, we're saving $500,000 there, right? So it's not just about, things are getting planned and things are getting done. So I want to emphasize that. And I'm happy to sit down with anybody at any time to go through the musical report and identify what I think are the most important elements of this. The council talked about this when we made the tour, and I'm just trying to chip off things a little at a time, being mindful of what I think is, I think that the library is something that's been neglected for years. And I will, I feel strongly that this is the time to do it, right? We spent last year, we tried to get money from the state for the library. I don't know what you would have us do other than kind of what we're doing now. I'm being very systematic about our buildings. I visit all of them every week. So something just to keep in mind there. And in terms of a schedule of maintenance, we don't have a schedule of maintenance for our buildings. We haven't had one for years. We have people that come and clean on Wednesdays, but there's been no regular maintenance other than what we can get Lester to do, or the Department of Public Works to do, when they're not picking up everybody's trash and recycling. So, if you want to talk about maintenance, I can come across, I think, with a pretty strong point of view about how poor a job we have done on maintenance in terms of our building and in terms of our stormwater. I could talk all night long about the fact that and I'm very respectful, I think, always of previous mayors and previous councils and the situation at hand at any given moment in Lambertville. But the culvert at Arnett Avenue is a perfect example of inaction and not taking care of something. Right, that culvert was not cleaned out, and part of the reason why it imploded and exploded was because it was filled 40% with debris. So there's a lot going on here, and the council's part-time, the mayor is part-time. I don't know how people think that with the DPW staff managing all of this, 530 inlets in the city, 530 that I counted myself, how we don't have a schedule. We have a schedule, we have log sheets that are submitted as part of our Tier A requirements, and we can certainly pass those on to you. The city has done the stormwater infrastructure is examined and looked at. Half of it's done in the spring and half of it's done in the fall. So there are log sheets, we do keep track, but I can tell you it's a Herculean effort to manage stormwater and the buildings and the staff and the resources we have. So I have to say, to take a little bit of offense at this idea that we ran that I ran, or maybe the council of people are certainly welcome to speak for themselves, to solve problems in a way that only one or two or five people think is appropriate, right? I'm looking at the stormwater utility. One of the first things it's going to do is it's going to identify exactly how much money we currently spend on the stormwater program and maintenance now. We have no idea because everything is just folded into the general budget, with the exception of the street sweeper, which we can pull out. We know what Paul Cross's time is. We know how much the street sweeper costs. We know how much it costs to get rid of the street sweepings. That's the only discrete item that we can pull out of the stormwater maintenance program. The rest of it just happens during the regular day. So the stormwater utility study is designed to identify what our costs are, what it's actually costing us to run this program, whatever it is, and those numbers will be hard data. Cindy and I have been working very tirelessly to kind of provide that. It will give us a baseline of what the city actually spends in a year in terms of human resources, in terms of repairs, in terms of planning, in terms of capital. All of those things will be made available through the stormwater utility. And honestly, I'm not looking to bloat or create something huge here. I'm just looking to solve a problem. And I think that it's important for the people of this community to give us a fair and open-minded shot, right? Maybe it won't work. I have no idea. But I can tell you that the amount of work that I do and that the Department of Public Works does every day to manage stormwater in the city is a lot. It's a lot. And, you know, what's going to happen when we don't have somebody who's going to do it full time? You know, these are onerous requirements. So I would encourage everybody to give this a fair shot, right? I'm just trying to solve a problem here. And it's not political. It doesn't have to be a big bloated thing. I would expect that the stormwater utility, my vision of this would be that for the first 5 years, if we enacted it as a community, that we are only charging enough to manage our requirements, to manage our required program, and also to begin to really identify where the problems are. This pipe in Delavan Street, for example, 13 miles of roadway. We have pipes underground everywhere, right? I keep finding things when the DOT, this big job, you open up an inlet and you discover that, the inlet is just connected to a broken pipe because that's the way it was done. The connection was just, you put in an inlet and you just bust into the pipe. So, we don't know the depth of our problems here. So please give it a fair shake, okay? I'm happy to meet with people and talk about this, but, it's just a way to look at a problem through a new light, using new tools, using data. So I ran on a while there, from what I wanted. And just one other clarification, the pipe on Delavan Street, as I noted, $3,300 of that was paid for by the developer. And we thought that was fair because the damage that the developer caused was a small nick in the pipe. And if we had just had to replace that section of the pipe, we would have asked him to cover the entire cost of that repair. But because the pipe is so badly damaged in other sections, the whole pipe needs to be replaced. So we have asked the developer to pay for his portion of what it would cost for him to replace that portion of the pipe, which I thought was fair. So they're on the hook for $3,300 and we're on the hook for the rest because it's our pipe and it was badly damaged in 3 other places.
Which had nothing to do with what the contract.
Correct. Yes, they were illegal connections and
The way we found it was when they damaged the pipe, then we looked at the pipe. And you were able to see, across to North Union Street, or maybe even further, how badly the pipe was non-functioning.
So the fact that underground pipe, which we wouldn't have discovered if we hadn't had the problem with the developer, the fact that it's all the water in that pipe is just running into the earth, not running into the next inlet, should be a concern to everybody who lives at the corner of Delavan, Clinton Street. So, there are so many examples of that kind of situation underground here at Pamperville. So, we can either, try new approaches to different problems, or we can, continue to think that maybe what we've been doing is sufficient. I can tell you, it's not. I'm not an expert, but I'm getting there, and it's not. The way we manage our stormwater, it's not. We just haven't had the resources. That's all. I'm not fixing blame to anybody, but we haven't allocated the resources.
Mayor, did you want to talk a little bit about the stormwater page on our website and the stormwater pollution prevention plan that mentions a lot of the maintenance that is planned?
I wish that people would take a look at some of this stuff, right? I mean, it's you go onto that and you look at a 27-page stormwater pollution prevention plan that Cindy and Lester and I spent an hour on every Friday for like 6 months trying to get the proper procedures in place for the DEP. that thing came back to us 3 times for further correction. And it's not because we're idiots, it's because the requirements are so hyper specific that they want what they want. And, you know, we have 34 new or revised regulations that we have to meet with this TRA. It's serious stuff, and it's a ton of work. It's a ton of work. And
Right, and then there are, as part of the stormwater pollution prevention plan, there are Excel documents that Lester is using to track the maintenance. And a lot of this is post-storm, so you know, we get a notice that there's a storm coming. Lester's out looking, Lester and his crew, but also there's maintenance that he has to do. So a lot of that is on an Excel document that is not uploaded, but it mentions it in the stormwater pollution prevention plan. So it's a key part of what we're doing, and it's added responsibility and added documentation. I mean, before this came to play, Lester would say, okay, this is the plan. We know where our heavy spots are, go out and do it. But now it's, okay, I need you to go to this street, this street, this street, and then come back and document, what did we remove? How do we remove it? Where's it going? And, how are we getting rid of it? So it's a lot more documentation. And I hope you'll take a look at it because, there's a lot of information there.
it tells a story, and, the problems that keep coming up. There are a lot of problems that have gone unaddressed for a long time, and I'm working through them. I don't know what to say. I mean, the culvert at Studford Street probably should have been taken care of 5 years ago, or 10 years ago, right? I could take anybody in this room to any one of these locations, and you would shake your head and say, how is it possible that the DOT didn't know that it had to clean out the outfall of the Delaware Avenue culvert, and now we've got flooding on Delaware Avenue? Because nobody's been out to that outfall ever in 20 years. That's not a me problem. That's a us problem. That's a history problem. That's a problem of resources and staffing. And, we have a good relationship. Lieutenant Brown is often on the phone with DOT when these emergencies happen, saying, this is your culvert. Did you, can you come and clean it out? Well, the problem's already happened, right? So, in order for us to do this well, somebody has to be paying attention all the time and not be so reactive. I'm done. I'm sorry, it went on and on, but I feel passionately about our responsibility to fixing problems and looking at new ways of fixing problems, because certainly some of the old approaches have not served us well. I don't know what to say that.
I'll just talk about the library. I think it's sorely needed. Before Karen and I came on council, one of the things we did was we did a tour of all the buildings, and the DPW building and the library were really at the top of the list of work that needed to be done. And when you look at, not as many people go to the DPW, but a lot of people are going to the library. It's really the central. There's a lot of people that rely on that many have internet that go there to use the library, the computers and everything. I mean, it's such an important part, and it's real bad. And it's at the point where we don't do something, we're going to end up spending a lot more in the future. So I'm excited to think about some of these possibilities. I think the roadways that we're talking about working on are sorely needed as well. There's a lot that we need to do, but we need to start somewhere. And I think these are all projects that are very worthy of discussion.
Yeah, I've always supported the library. I think this was a project that unfortunately we were going to do. And then it got jettisoned a couple of years ago, and it's proving that it was not, forward looking to jettison it, just like now building an extra tunnel to New York City, stuff happens, and we're gonna correct it because everybody likes the library, people use the library. This is not, it needs to get done, and, next time we apply for state money, if there's still some money, I think we need to get involved, and you can't just throw the paper in. We need to campaign for some of these things and not go to the whim of paper in, paper out, and put together maybe some work on that, I suggest to be able to kind of pursue these funds with vigor, but the library will Piece of library will serve the community well, and it will really clean up that spot
Absolutely.
in town and, you know, it's kind of interesting in Lambertville, because you think you live in a neighborhood and. You know, you're just a block away, nobody understands that there are very, very separate neighborhoods, and certain neighborhoods come alive when you have new things to it, you know, look where I live on York, and. You know, a block down, there's some new businesses, and, you know, what used to be a place that you tripped as you went into town. Is now, you know, pretty vibrant, and then people fix up their. These around or do whatever, and it's kind of joyous, that area. Is getting that shot in the arm too, there's a lot of new homeowners there and a lot of things happening, so I think that we'll be doing our part to help the neighborhood as well.
And then one last thing I'll say, you know, I've asked Michael Burns to kind of look at a couple of other smaller projects in the city, so. You know, it's not a lot of work for him to kind of draft about, so maybe restoring the third floor at City Hall, which is, you know, mostly kind of patchwork at this point, and some electrical outlets, or, you know, looking at the library, we toured the library and said, you know, it's gonna be unlikely that we're gonna get $300,000 from anybody to paint the building, because that really feels like it's something that we should have done years ago, but, you know, here's a lovely little project that we could do. We could, what about making the front entrance also handicap accessible? By putting in a lift, right, which is a very small, you know, this is like maybe a $30,000 project, but you could remove the ramp at the back, you could have one main entrance where everybody can come in. You know, so I've got some ideas about smaller projects that might be better candidates for kind of like grant funding, because they're sweet, and why wouldn't, you know, why wouldn't, you know, store cat. Right.
Or yeah, just as a wealth of, you know, ideas, so we'll say that, we don't wanna collaborate with on it.
Well, technology's moved so far ahead than it did 6 years ago when we got a price to do just what you're getting a
Right.
price to do now. It kind of got dropped through administrations.
Yeah.
But it's interesting that just by waiting that period of time, I don't think it came close to doing that. When we first bid it out those years ago, that's just, you know, it's kind of like, you know, you look backwards to look forward, so, you know, what's it gonna be in 2 more years to do something like this, because you can't really predict where anything's going.
Right.
So, you know, I was in favor of doing it then, and I'm certainly in favor of completing that project.
And we'll talk more about this when we talk about the budget, right? I mean, you know, I talked about this during the state of the city, you know, we're in a pretty good place in a lot of ways, and we'll talk more about it.
And just one other thing, I know that there's a fundraising arm now in the library system, so maybe they should promote.
Yeah.
You know, take that new position they created and run with it, and let the people know that there are ways to fund some of these projects that are actually beneficial to people who are facing huge capital gain taxes on their portfolio if they sell them.
Right.
So it's, you know, I don't know how many people realize that is actually one good thing that the government does, is they try to foster people who have wealth or who have stocks or whatever it is, that they're encouraging charity, those kind of donations, because it, individual person gets, you know, a terrific write-off to give that out, stock out, and the nonprofit doesn't have to pay taxes on it.
Yeah.
So, you know, that's an important fact that maybe we can, you know, work that into some model, and maybe especially with the library. I mean, it's great to come to a meeting in here that people have donated $10,000 or $15,000 to street tree stuff.
Mhm.
I mean, there's other motivation for people that have wealth and have amassed stocks that unfortunately the capital gains are almost as much as, you know, as doesn't make sense at one point. So.
Yeah, there's an evolution happening at the library with board and with interest, and I see it, and I feel strong.
If you want someone to help work on it, I'd be happy to work.
Thanks.
Because it's kind of like a secret.
Yeah. Okay, unless the council has anything else, I'm gonna ask for a motion to go into closed session at this time.
You're not the public, we done with the second.
We got.
Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Mayor, and it's to discuss issues related to potential contracts pursuant to NJSA 10:4-12B7.
Thank you for that, Cindy. Thank you for coming this evening.